Hello everyone, and welcome back to Totally Broken Opinions. Today's episode is Tomb Raider, The Legend of Lara Croft, on Netflix. The animated anime new series based loosely, I guess, on the games, the 2014 reboot. It's got Hayley Atwell as Lara Croft, and Richard Armitage as the main villain, I guess. And voice of Trevor in Castlevania, which threw me right off because I was like, the voice of Trevor is a bad guy now? How could this be? And I like both. So yeah, we're going to be doing Tomb Raider. I like the 2014 reboot games. I think the only game I've ever 100% completed is the second one. So, like, that was the one that I just dedicated hours and hours of my life to playing and finishing up everything, all the little side quests. Like, not 100%. I didn't do everything on hard mode or whatever. It was just, like, the mid-tier playthrough. Like, the middle ground difficulty, probably normal. And I went and collected everything on the map and did all of the little side things and everything like that. So 100% in terms of that. I didn't like get platinum trophy or whatever it is. Well, I reckon I could at this point. But yeah, so I really like that series of games, and this is a semi sort of loose continuation, I guess, because I don't know where, like, it's been a while since I played those games, so I don't know exactly how much it continues on from, like, maybe Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which is the last one, which is kind of whatnot, because a lot of this focuses on Roth, who dies in the first one. So I feel like it's an alternate middle ground for, like, it's a separate timeline, because when you're playing the game, like, I feel like it's just solely based off the first game, the 2014 or 2013 game, because, like, she's so, like, at the beginning, she's so traumatized by the death of Roth in the first game. Like, he died in the adventure where they're trapped on the island, which is the first game. And so, like, you'd think after 2 games where she's dealt with that, she's learned to be herself. So I feel like it just takes place after the first game, and there's a different timeline. Because this one, they basically state that she beats Trinity, which is the bad guys in the first one. Or like the people in the background, essentially. And then it's been so long, but I don't actually remember because, okay, so spoilers for the game and spoilers for this, but even though you've been around for about 3 minutes and I've already probably spoiled half the show, but so in the game, Trinity is the bad guys, and from 1 to 3, you're, like, hunting down Trinity and you're trying to take down Trinity, and you think you've taken down Trinity, or, like, Trinity is, I can't remember. It's so long since I've played them, and watching this, I do want to go back and play them. But so this is me trying to remember the plot of both a game and this TV show, and then trying to figure out where in the timeline or what actually makes sense. But I don't think she ends up defeating Trinity in the games, because I can't remember which one it is. I think it's the second one, which does the reveal that the stepmom is part of Trinity, and then the third game takes place somewhere completely different and doesn't really focus on Trinity as the main villains. I don't remember. It's been a while, so correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. And then also, I may be getting it confused with the movie with what's her name, Alicia Vikander, because they take a lot of inspiration from the first game as well for that movie, and it does a retelling, and it also does kind of reveal that I don't think it reveals that the mum is part of Trinity. I think she does figure it out. I think that is one of the things, and then she goes and picks up her guns. So yeah, but let's focus on the actual TV show, because that's what we're here to talk about. So this takes place after the events of probably the first game, where they've been trapped on the island, and she's come back, and she's basically running from her past of essentially feeling guilty that her mentor dies, who is also kind of a dick. So you're like, okay. And so she's just gallivanting around the world, and she's found an artifact as one of her previous adventures. And okay, so that was the first thing I wanted to say. In the beginning, she's being chased by people shooting bows and arrows, and then when they confront her, they're not carrying bows and arrows. So where were those bows and arrows coming? Minor little nitpick, but it's just funny. Like, they're running through the jungle. She's running through the jungle. She's getting shot at by bows. And then when all the bad guys, like protectors of the artifact or whatever it is, turn up and try and stop her, they're not carrying bows and arrows. They're just doing hand-to-hand combat with like spears and stuff. Actually, I don't even know if they have spears. But they don't have bows and arrows. So it's just a lot of people fist fighting and stabbing people with knives and shit, and then one guy shooting another guy with a gun. So she's basically found the Jade artifact, which so I like wacky, like, I know the original Tomb Raiders, I haven't played them. Like, I've wanted to play them. I think I might play them with the remaster. But I kind of also want to do the retro, like, original on, like, PS1 and PS2 and stuff like that. So I might buy them on that and then do them. But so I know that the games basically are, like, exploring tombs, and then they go into a weird, wacky sort of, like, you're fighting dinosaurs, and you're fighting ghosts and mummies and things like that. And the game does hint to those sorts of things. Like, the first game is Kimiko, or like the ghost lady who's keeping everyone trapped on the island, and you basically... It feels realistic, and then it goes more mythical, ancient stuff. And then a lot of the other ones, it toils with it. It's kind of like Uncharted, where there's kind of an explanation, but there's also kind of not an explanation to what the wacky mythical stuff is. And I think a lot of people want the, it doesn't matter. There's a secret, underground world where dinosaurs and mummies and all of these crazy things happen, in this realistic setting. And I think this show does a good job at building up to that. You're like, it might just be some, weird weather events, or just unexplained occurrences and stuff like that. And then it kind of just slowly eases you into, you're fighting a dinosaur at the end. You're fighting a man who's got the powers of all 4 gems, artifacts and stuff like that. And he's a big, mad creature, and she's basically fighting him with karate and guns. So I like that. I like that it builds to that. I think the villain's alright. It's nice to hear Richard Armitage's voice. It's really weird that he sounds like Trevor, and he doesn't look like Trevor from Castlevania. That took me a while to get used to. But I like his motivations. I think they don't... The ending for him isn't super satisfying, because the whole premise of this is that they basically are the same, or like they're on the same path basically, because she's traumatized by the loss of her father and her mentor, and like by an evil organization, and then this dude's also, his father died by an evil organization, the Light, and they're trying to do whatnot, and he needs power, so he's basically going and trying to collect these artifacts to gain the power to defeat them. And so he does eventually get all of the artifacts, and then he does kill a lot of them. And then he gets beaten. And you're like, okay. But that's kind of all there is to him. He's not... He has like a couple good menacing bits. He does like a few good speeches, and Lara does get... Like, Haley Steinfeld does a very good performance as Lara Croft. But again, there is a little bit of, where is this going? It's a very by the numbers plot. Doubts herself, builds herself, and then is herself basically at the end. Like, we've all seen this. It's very similar to the first game. And I think this is just to introduce people. I think there are some good new additions to the like roster of her friends. So you've got the tech guy, you've got the daughter of Roth, who's French and comes in. That is the best joke in this entire show, where because she's British, they're basically discussing, oh, where do we need to go next? And she basically says, oh, I need to go to the worst place imaginable. And you're like, oh, some horrible rundown country and like in the middle of nowhere. And then it just cuts to France. And you're like, ah, yes, that's good. So yeah, I think ultimately, I think that's the best addition is the tech guy is good because you get those unexplainable tech gadgets where he basically just has a drone and it's kind of, I do find this funny. So Lara Croft always has an earpiece in no matter what. Like in every scene, she's just got an earpiece in. And I think that's just their way of going, yeah, that's how they're communicating all the time. It's always on. It never needs battery changed. Even when she gets blown up or whatever, it's still in there. It doesn't lose communication with anyone. That was like, okay. I feel like they just wanted to save on the animation budget by not having to have like consistency with her having it in or out. But yeah. Where was I going? But yeah, so I think the new lady, Camilla, is a good addition. I like their friendship. I like that it feels real. It just kind of just like you're like, oh, okay, she's just met this person and she has a history with them. And you're like, oh, okay. But they do feel like childhood friends. Even though I can't remember if it's mentioned in the games that he has a daughter. But I wouldn't be opposed to this being like in the games. I think Jonah is a good character. I've never loved his character, mainly because I think in the first game you're introduced to a character called Sam, and this show does tease Sam. And I think it's a real shame because Sam basically is the big plot point of what drives Lara to go, because Sam basically gets kidnapped in the first game and is basically touted as the reincarnation. Oh, I can't remember. It's been a while. But she's basically the embodiment of the spirit, or like they want to get her the embodiment of the spirit that's trapping the people on the island and stuff like that. And it's also teased that they're romantically at least interested in each other. Like there's some bits like it's very, very light. Like it is not blatant. It's like if it was in China, they could cut it like that. Like it's so lightly sprinkled on the top. Like it's like, yeah, we're not gonna outright say it, but there's some looks, there's some like dedication there, there's some like betrayal when like stuff happens. There's definitely a longing, and it might just be a close friendship. I think that's what they've ended up trying to push it as. It's just a very close friendship, which is a shame because I like the idea of like that character being at least openly interested in both, if you want to do it like that. But I think it's more interesting for her as a character to be, oh yeah, she's gay. Like, I know people get fucking mad about that or whatever, but I think it does make her character, like, it makes sense for her. She's basically, like, she's a tomboy at this point, so it would make sense that she's not traditionally interested in, like, what the perfect, like, woman, like, I don't know. It's such a weird conversation topic because I'm not informed enough on it, and I don't know if people like the idea, but I also don't think it should matter if she is or isn't. But the premise of this is basically they're not on speaking terms after the event of what happened because, like, Lara recluses herself and she's basically self-sabotaging. And so Sam is kind of teased, which I was just waiting for her to turn up because I really liked Sam. I think Sam's a really good character in the first game. And it is always a shame that Square Enix and, like, the people who run Tomb Raider, I think saw the maybe, like, people go, we don't want Lara to be gay. Or, like, a lot of people went, she shouldn't be gay. And so they kind of sidelined Sam as a character. And I think you can see the effect in the later games is like they kind of push Jonah as like her companion throughout those games, and it makes like. But I think Sam had like a good character arc, and I think it would have been nice to see that character explored more in media, and that relationship and that friendship or relationship, if you want, in more stuff, because they worked well together. They're like strong, and it would give more of a motivation. Like Jonah is good. I don't have any problem with Jonah. And they give Jonah, I can't remember if Jonah has a partner in previous iterations of the games, but he's getting married and stuff like that, so the stakes are high for him if he gets mind controlled and stuff like that. So you're like, oh, is he gonna die? Is Lara gonna feel guilty that the partner is left alone? He doesn't. But so there's good stakes in that. He's her good moral compass. I like his dedication to her. In terms of like, he is her guiding light to like push her. He doesn't give up, and she feels like she isn't worth it, and he always has to assure her that she is, and like no matter what. And she just like, her character is reclusive, and then she starts realizing that, oh no, there are people that no matter what will stick by me, and I should start treating them nice, or I should start going to them for advice and getting like help. Like she uses people for help, but she isn't actively wanting the help. It's people forcing her to take them, whereas she should be going to them to get the help, because without them, she isn't going to be able to do it. And I like that direction that they took, because she is kind of selfish. Like she's riddled with guilt, and so I think it's an interesting like redemption where you basically see her understand where her friends are coming from, understanding that, oh yeah, no, like with Camilla, she's harbored like hatred or like a resentment, because for years she felt like she abandoned her, but it turned out her dad basically was trying to mold Lara into the perfect tomb hunter and whatnot, and attachment isn't good because attachment leaves you weak. The whole classic argument of that. Because you can then get people in trouble, and it's better to be alone and whatnot. And in that, she then finds out, no, her dad just sent her back and told her that she didn't want to hang out with Lara and whatnot. And then the dad lied to Lara to say, oh yeah, she doesn't want to hang out with you anymore. And then they didn't see each other for years. And then because of the circumstances of this, she now needs, like, they've maybe interacted in the past, but they're not on good speaking terms. And then it's through events that they go, oh yeah, no, we were just lied to, basically. And we just had pointless beef for no reason. Ugh. But yeah. So we get a couple episodes or an episode where she basically is on the hunt for the artifact. She goes to China. She finds a small village. She's got to go to a temple. And this is like the big main transition from like, oh yeah, no, it's just kind of weather events and whatnot, to straight up just mythical, ancient gods and stories and all of that. Where essentially there's a god or a ancient hero. I can't remember what it is. She's basically looking for some missing children to get information of where the temple is. And then I think they accidentally stumble upon it to find when they're looking for the kids. And there's the ancient evil, which is mind controlling the kid, or getting the kids to come to not. I don't think it's the evil. I think it's what people think it's the evil, but it's the fox god lady. And one of the best designs I've ever seen in a show for like a creature is this fox god that's built up of loads of little foxes, and it's like it falls apart and foxes just spill out and then just keep attacking and things like that. It's a really cool design. I think there's a lot of cool designs in this for like the gods and the outfits and the character designs, and like I think the dinosaurs look a bit goofy, but that's to be expected. I like that they also focus on puzzles. There are a lot of puzzles in this, and it's like, oh yeah, this this would be a really fun level in the game where you're like turning lights or you're gassed and then like a whole bunch of terrifying creatures, but they're technically guards and you're just having hallucinations. Stuff like that. And like you could see it being in a game where it's like you're tightly packed in a corridor and you're running through the catacombs of France and you're like under this church for like this religious cult. And like you've been like gassed and you're having hallucinations and you're running through different like traumatic events of your past and things like that. I think they take a lot of the game aspects that would be fun and translate them well through animation. But yeah, I think ultimately there's not much more I can say. Like, I don't want to spoil everything. I think the ending is good. I think ultimately the character is good. I think it's a solid 4-ish hours of your day. I would like to see a season 2. I just like Tomb Raider. Like, I think that character is fascinating. They have her with the fucking like the climbing claw grapple thing. She's got a bow. Everyone else, and then she finally gets her guns at the end. Don't worry, they tease her having guns, and like in the final episode. So she's going to fight. She's basically going to return all of the stones. Okay, so I am going to spoil the ending. And she's basically, they're like, oh yeah, you'll need something to help in case there's some danger. And she gets given her 2 double pistols or whatever the fuck they are from like the original game, the iconic dual pistols, as well as the bow. I like her with a bow more. I think guns are easy. Also, there's like an infinite amount of ammo. She's carrying like things, but yeah, I think ultimately this show's really good. I think people should watch it if you like the games. It's a good continuation / alternate history. I don't know. I generally don't know what it's meant to be. But yeah, and so spoilers for the very end. They do have Sam be kidnapped. So if we do get a season 2, because she's meant to be going to everyone's going to Jonah's wedding, because that's the ending, the happy ending, because the world didn't end. And so she then gets a phone call from Sam because she tried to contact Sam, and then Sam's ringing her, and then nothing. And then she runs off to, like, her instincts kick in, and she's like, oh no, Sam's in danger. And then she goes to her apartment, finds that it's been kicked in, like Sam's been investigating something, and something's happened to her, and she's now gone. And so, hopefully, we will get Sam again, and we will get confirmation of whether or not they're just friends, or it's something else. And I am happy with either, but I would like it to be the other one, not just friends, because I think it's boring. I think just having I don't know. I think it's more interesting if you have like a character. Like I don't love the whole kidnap the love interest. I think that's I think I want to see what they do with Sam in the sequel. I don't want her to just be a damsel in distress. She's kind of that in the first game, but she does help. And I'm kind of like, oh yeah, no, I want to see Sam be built as an actual character rather than just this archetype of, oh, we get kidnapped because we need someone to be kidnapped, and they're defenseless and they're helpless, and like they don't do anything unless the hero does everything. And I'm like, I want someone who can stand on their own. So yeah, ultimately, I think this is a good show. I think people should watch it. I wouldn't say it's the best thing I've ever watched in terms of the animation. I think the animation is clean. I don't think there's any, like, there's some good action sequences. I think ultimately it's not changing the game. It's doing what it does well. It's not like an Arcane or a Spider-Verse where the animation is so out there that it completely blows you away. This just looks like Castlevania in terms of, I think it's meant to be the same like animation studio that Netflix uses for everything. But yeah, ultimately solid. I generally enjoyed it. I think it helps if you've played the game, at least the first one, to get that backstory, or even watch the movie. I don't know which one it's meant to be, but you don't have a Roth in the first one, so I guess it's meant to be the game. But yeah, I think ultimately it's good. I think the voice performances are good. I think it's not world altering, but you don't always need that. You can have stuff that's pretty tame, but it's just entertaining. I don't think you need something that will change everything. But yeah, I think the mystery is also interesting. I think the resolution is a bit hit or miss, depends on what you think. But ultimately, it was fun. And I think that's always good in this day and age. I think it's better to be fun than boring or bad. So I'd give it maybe like an 8 or a 7 out of 10. Like, it's pretty good. Anyway, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week for Venom. And I think it's Venom. I think Venom's out next week. But yeah, we'll see you then. Bye!